to look that far to see. In an instant, it's all rushing by.
Hello everyone, this is Pendy.
And this is Paul, also known as Eastex Twitch.
Hey, check this out. I've built us a life-size Treasures and Trapdoors game for our Alltrades Abbey.
Ooh, I remember playing the TNT board game in Dragon Quest Tact. Is it similar here?
Somewhat. It is more similar to the traditional Dragon Quest TNT game, so there is less of an emphasis on fighting monsters like there was in Tact. But you still roll the dice, and you go around the board trying to get fabulous prizes. Let's try it.
You insist. Oh wow, I landed on a spot with a treasure chest already. Great, there's a mini medal in here, but where can I exchange it?
I didn't think that through. We'll need to appoint someone as a medal king.
Maybe Platty the Platinum King Jewel and fellow Slimetime co-host? We can figure it out later. It's your turn now, right?
Yep. Son of a golem! I've landed on a trap door!
Dude, I guess he didn't think that one through either. Where does that trapdoor even go? Oh well. While Pendy climbs out of the abyss, I'll welcome everyone to Alltrades DQ Media Abbey, a Slimetime podcast spinoff where we review various Dragon Quest media, including manga and anime.
Okay, I'm back. I'm not sure where that went either, but I'm glad I'm back. So we that was the horrors down there. You don't want to know. Anyway, we are currently reviewing the 2020 Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai anime and the Dragon Quest X tie-in manga, Rooming with a Gamer Gal. We'll start with Dai first, so let's strash it up.
And we begin with episode 99, Victory by These Hands. In this episode, we see that Pop and friends have all been trapped in the heart of Vearn Castle. Everyone's attempts to free themselves from the heart are to no avail. But then Pop notices they are doing damage to the wall of the heart. They need a more powerful attack to break free. He realizes a grand cross attack could do it. Hyuncle and Yvonne go back and forth on which one of them should do the move, but before it can be decided, Heem tries it himself. The attack makes an opening in the heart and separates it from the castle as it lunges to the ground. As it falls, Pop and Yvonne use their zoom spells to get everyone out, thank goodness. They are then reunited with their friends below. Meanwhile, Dai and Vearn trade blows in what's left of the castle. Vearn realizes he can't win as he is, so he uses the power of his sovereign eye, that's his third eye, to unleash the Sovereign Supreme, a final evolution of his body. As the episode ends, Dai unleashes a full draconic aura Doruora spell, but is it enough to defeat Vearn?
That's a lot of roar in that sentence there.
For reals.
I like the two plot lines going on here. Pop and the others, now freed from their eye jewel imprisonment, get some time to shine as they try to escape the heart of Vearn's palace. I love that Heem is the one that ends up using the Grand Cross to get them out, as the other two kind of debate. I'm like, no, I'm going to do it. No, I'm going to do it, but you'll die. Also, when everyone reunites on the ground, there are some great character interaction. Queen Fiona's reaction to Yvonne is hilarious, especially her goofy head swivel. But how many times has she fainted now in this show? It seems like it's been a bunch. Chu and Heem's relationship gets one more laugh. Chu assumes that Heem is dead before bothering to investigate. I particularly love the moment between Hyuncle and Pop. After being so dismissive of Pop this whole series, sometimes deserved, Hyuncle finally gives him some well-deserved respect. It's a great moment between the two heroes. Back with Vearn and the Dai fight, I really love the design of Vearn's Sovereign Supreme. It's a great final boss form, worthy of any Dragon Quest game. Also worth noting is that the final preview for the next episode doesn't show any scenes from it, unlike what they usually do. Or do they?
Yeah, the final preview has a narrator describing the next episode while it shows a scene of Dai's sword sticking out of the ground. The same imagery appears at the end of the current intro sequence, so it's surely significant. We'll learn what it means in episode 100. My main reaction to the Vearn fight in this episode is that I'm ready for Vearn to be gone. The fighting has gone on for too long. Not that a multi-episode battle is unusual for a shonen series like The Adventure of Dai, but here Vearn gets his final boss form, which is certainly video gamey. The Sovereign Supreme form resembles Sovereign Castle, which Dai mentions as the real final battle starts. The castle once got up like a kaiju and attacked one of the heroic kingdoms way earlier in the series, so it certainly makes sense that the castle was based on Vearn's final evolution. Admittedly, it's cool to see Dai taking on such a huge boss while powered up in his dragonoid form. Heem is a really good person for performing the Grand Cross and potentially sacrificing himself rather than allowing Hyuncle or Yvonne to do it. Both of them were too weak, so basically basically they wouldn't survive it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that Him survives it too. And then the joke with Chu retiring number 12 of the Beast King Commandos is fun. I also love seeing everyone reunited, though it's over too quickly. Amy the Sage cries when she sees Yunkel back, but he still doesn't act like he's into her. Queen Flora is so happy to see Yvonne that she faints. I love it, but I'd still love to see what happens when she wakes up. Well, perhaps we'll get a bit more resolution in the finale.
So in the finale, episode 100, Farewell, This World That I Love, we continue the Battle of Vearn in this final episode. Vearn survives Dai's Dororo attack and proceeds to pummel him. As Dai tries to muster his strength on a floating piece of Vearn's castle, Baran's sword appears, along with the spirit of Baran. He encourages Dai to use his sword to finish off Vearn. Dai takes the sword in hand and is able to slice through one of Vearn's supreme sovereign arms, but it's not enough. Vearn takes Dai in hand and tries to crush him. Dai uses his power to break free and takes hold of his sword, which is still lodged in Vearn's chest. He does a powerful downward slash that cuts the Supreme Sovereign in two and defeats Vearn. The Supreme Sovereign and Vearn turn to stone, shatter, and hurtle towards the sun. As Dai falls to earth, Pop catches and saves him. The celebration begins, but then Kilvern appears. He reveals that Pororo, the Jinxter, is the real Kilvern, and that his puppet's head is a black core, originally intended to take out King Vearn when the time was right, on behalf of his master and Vern's rival, Velzar. With Vearn defeated, Kilvern activates the black core to kill Dai and his friend. The heroes quickly take out the real Kilvern, and Dai and Pop take the black core and zoom into the sky. Dai kicks Pop away to save him, and the black core explodes. A memorial is created with Dai's sword, and we see our heroes visiting it, lamenting the loss of Dai. Lon Baruch points out that the jewel in the sword is still glowing, indicating that Dai is still out there somewhere. We end with the heroes joyously working together to repair their world.
I enjoyed seeing Baran's spirit visit Dai to give him a sword. All the moments with Dai communicating with his dead parents are touching. Still, it's a downer that Dai breaks Baran's sword instead of successfully hitting the Sovereign Eye with it. He's letting his dad down there. Well, Dai does score the killing blow when he grabs his own sword that was already stuck in Vearn and just tears him up. He got results in the end. After killing Vearn, Dai falls to the planet, and it's quite reminiscent of when Tony Stark falls back to the Earth at the end of the first Avengers movie. That was interesting. The brief celebration afterwards is pleasant, especially when Queen Flora teases Yvonne about disappearing after the final fight, and Pop backs her up by telling Yvonne that he'd better accept it and take responsibility. Kilvern's surprise appearance spoils the well-earned merriment, however. It's cool that he reveals his full nature and intentions, but man, there have been too many black cores in this series. The creator really seems to love those stupid things. Well, I don't love Dai getting lost after the core explodes and going into hibernation or something. I suppose they had to set up a potential sequel. Dai's loss takes some of the joy out of the ending for me, but the after-credits sequence that shows what some of the heroes are up to is still nice. We see Pop traveling with Mom and Merla. Did he end up with both of them instead of just one? Go Pop. Yvonne and Flora look so happy together, even with Yvonne's goofy mustache and crazed smile. Yunkel and Larhart are traveling together while Amy stays behind, looking frustrated. She doesn't seem to have given up on Yunkel, but she sure isn't happy either. More cheerfully, the Beast King Commandos are building a fort along with Himchan and Crocodile. It's nice to see all of them together. Matarif, Pop's master, makes Masofo and the other fake heroes return the treasure that they've stolen. So yes, we get to see the fake heroes once again. Lon Baruch and Nova are working on new weapons. And finally, Leona looks at Dai's monument and the series ends.
Man, what a great final chapter to this story. First off, I love that they did a terrific drawing of all the major heroes and villains that get shown at the halfway mark of this episode. I really love that. Really great art. I also really loved how they animated the final fight between Dai and Vearn in these last two episodes. It's very epic and fitting for the last battle. Dai's method of taking Vearn out is perfection. And the bit with his father and his sword was great with Baran, but I'm glad that he ended up having to defeat Vearn using his own sword and power. I also like that they didn't do a traditional recap and did a little bit of Dai versus Vearn to start the show before going into the opening song. Before it closed down, I played the Dai mobile game A Hero's Bond. Now, if you've played it, you'll remember that there were two storylines you could play. There was the new original story that was made up for the game, and then the story that follows the anime. The final boss fight against Vearn was really well done in that game. I'm glad I got to experience it before the game closed down. I would hope to have a similar experience in a sequel to the console and PC game Infinity Strash, but sadly, I don't think we'll see that since the game did not sell very well. Back to the anime, seeing Yvonne as a king with an added goofy twirly mustache is fantastic, like you pointed out as well. I actually loved the reveal of Kilvern Vearn. I should have realized it the first time I watched it, but it was actually a complete surprise to me that the Jinxter was actually Kilvern. I did not see that coming. And there are some open-ended questions in the end here, though. Where is Dai? Did Pop get together with Mam? Did Hyunkel get together with Amy? Sadly, these questions go unanswered because they were probably meant for a potential sequel series. You can tell they were setting that up with the looming threat of Velzar in the end. Now, will there be a sequel series now? I mean, who knows? The Yvonne manga prequel series seems to be pretty popular in Japan, so maybe we'll see the series continue one day. Maybe we'll find out in the future. We'll see. And then one little side note that I thought was interesting, we had mentioned how they, instead of doing a preview of the show, they showed the picture of Dai's sword in the ground there, which ended up being the memorial that they created for Dai. That's something that they did for the teaser when they first announced that this anime was coming out, is that they showed that particular scene. They showed that sword in the ground like that and said, hey, we're doing a new anime. So they basically showed like the very, last scene of the anime, like just to do the teaser for the new anime. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's appropriate because it tells you, hey, we're going to make it all the way to the ending this time.
Exactly. Like you said, it's basically, an indication to the audience like, hey, we're going to go all the way this time and not get like cut off like we did with the first anime, unfortunately. So that was really cool. We have done it. We have reviewed all 100 episodes of Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai.
That's quite a milestone for us. To cap this off, we'll give our overall thoughts on the series.
So for me, I really love this show overall. It's one of the reasons why I started the podcast Tactfully Dai, which eventually turned into this podcast. I didn't see a lot of love for it from the other Dragon Quest podcasters and YouTubers at the time. I wanted to be a positive voice for the show. My love for the show is another reason why I have so much merchandise from it that I've been able to find over the years. I just wish they would release the series on Blu-ray so that I could have that too, or even like have it digitally, because I know, Paul, you were talking about in the past, like, hey, it'd be nice if they put the rest of the series on that Microsoft store where they still only have like 50 of the episodes on it right now.
Yeah, and Voodoo.
Yeah, but can't even have that. I don't know why they never went back and put the rest of it on it. It's been a very long time since they did that. But anyways, it is strange. But anyway, back to the show. The show itself has a brisk pace, which I enjoyed. The battles don't linger on too long. All the major characters are well done and enjoyable to watch. I love the mix of comedy, action, and drama the show combines together. Some people like to say the show is not a true Dragon Quest property, or doesn't feel like one at least, just a shonen show with a Dragon Quest skin, but I wholeheartedly disagree. This show constantly shines as a fun Dragon Quest property, which uses the skills and spells, monsters, scenarios that are very much part of Dragon Quest, whether it be exploring a traditional Dragon Quest dungeon like the Cave of Trials, or using all those Dragon Quest abilities and spells to save the day. They even do a good job of using them as part of the plot in terms of sometimes like reviving someone or something like that. As we've talked about on this podcast, some of the ideas that were born in the Adventure of Dai manga that preceded the anime later came up in Dragon Quest games, like Dai's ability to add Dragon Quest spells to his sword. As far as the production value of the show goes, it was mostly pretty good. Toei was the animation studio behind it, and they don't always have the best reputation. This is shown when they resort to computer graphics for some of the action scenes, which can look a little wonky. Personally, I have nothing against CGI in anime, but it sticks out like a sore thumb in this show sometimes. Otherwise, the animation is very good. The sound effects are also terrific. The music for the show was composed by Yuki Hayashi, famous for My Hero Academia and Haikyuu. I know some people were disappointed that Koichi Sugiyama's music wasn't used for this series like the first anime had, but Yuki Hayashi's music still shines in this series. I really enjoyed it. As far as the characters go, I would have to say my favorite villain was Flazzard, and my favorite hero was Mam. Flazzard was pretty much evil incarnate the way he acted. He crushed his enemies and was constantly striving to be the very best to please his creator, Hadlar. His design of fire and ice coming together was also fantastic. Really loved it. Mam's design was also a big favorite of mine, especially her martial artist design later on. I love that she went through a Dragon Quest style class change, and I appreciate her journey to get stronger and to become a true disciple of Yvonne. Now, as far as favorite moments go, I really loved the Cave of Trials. We had a party of heroes traversing in a Dragon Quest style dungeon, and it was just absolutely fantastic. I loved everything about that portion of the show. Also, learning Gome-chan's origins was really heartfelt and touching to me. That episode is definitely one of my all-time favorites out of the entire show. And on the lighter side, side. The goofy castle-style mall that they did for an episode or two was great too. Lots of fun Dragon Quest references in there as our party of heroes try to get some better equipment. Overall, it was a great series that had lots of fun twists and turns. I would recommend the series to any shonen anime fan, especially if they love Dragon Quest.
Well said. I love a lot of the same things about the series that you do. My favorite characters, you know, it's hard to choose because I love so many of them, but Crocodile, Him, Chu, and Yvonne are probably my overall favorites. I think Dai himself gets overshadowed by the side characters, especially later in the series when Dai is needing these constant pep talks, and then all of a sudden he's not a strong fighter for a while, even though he always used to be. Those kind of things make it less easy to be excited for him personally. But anyway, then villain-wise, you know, I do love Flazard a lot like you do, but also Hadlar is my overall favorite villain since he grows so much and he's just like a deeply interesting character eventually. And you just don't see that. You don't expect that for him early on. I mean, he really kind of mirrors Pop's growth, but still, like, what a fine job they did with him as a villain.
That's a very good comparison.
Right on. And of course, Pop is great too. But anyway, The Adventure of Dai gives us a 100 episode long animated Dragon Quest story to enjoy. And that's pretty special, especially nowadays when many great animes have to wait years between seasons instead of enjoying a continuous production schedule. Like there's some great shows that never get finished too, but having to wait years between seasons is far from ideal. So I'm glad with this one they just said we're gonna do it, and they did it. It was always a shame that the original Dai show didn't finish the narrative, but thankfully the new show did. We lose out on some character moments in the new show, blood and risque elements, but the quality of the story shines through anyway. The strict 100 episode limit adds a faster and more manageable pace. The same thing you get from other filler-free remakes like Dragon Ball Z Kai and Sailor Moon Crystal. So I'm generally in favor of that type of remake. Pendy, you mentioned the loss of the Koichi Sugiyama themes from the games, which the old show had, and I definitely miss those a lot. Would it have killed them to play the main Dragon Quest theme during some of the bigger moments, or even just once? The intro and ending songs are mostly forgettable to my ears. Like, I definitely would choose not to have them and just have classic Dragon Quest music instead. But the actual score during the episodes is as good as non-Dragon Quest music could be. The heroic music is especially strong. You know, whenever that plays, I'm like, yes. As for the art, the 3D models become less prevalent as the show goes on, or maybe just less noticeable. Early on, they do take the viewer out just a bit, but the action and fights really do improve as the series continues. My favorite part of Adventure of Dai will always be the beginning episodes on Dermline Island, back before the boss fights became so common. Still, the show sprinkles in quality humor and character interactions throughout, helping viewers fall in love with the characters and their world. I had a blast with Dai, and I'm sad that it's over. Still, I'm really glad that the creator of the show didn't rip off the ending of the Lego movie and have everyone learn that the whole story was just a video game. Wouldn't that be a stupid ending?
So next we'll go into rooming with a gamer gal. First off, we have Server 21. So much fun. In this chapter, we open with Satsuki playing a game with a group of friends at a karaoke and party room place. He returns home to find Miyako eating a meal. Miyako comments that he has been coming home later than usual these days, and she assumes it's because of his job. Satsuki explains that it's actually because he's been trying out a monster hunting game with friends. They engage in conversation all about the games they play, including recent Dragon Quest games. Satsuki realizes Miyako seems to play more games than he does. He professes that it's hard for him to have a conversation that isn't game related. Miyako corrects him and points out that he is good about talking about other topics as well. Later on, they both log on to Dragon Quest X to play a seasonal event. Satsuki realizes that he really loves having Miyako as a friend, but maybe there's more?
It's cool to see Satsuki enjoying a 3DS multiplayer meetup at the start of this chapter. Portable consoles are great for that type of gathering, something I really enjoyed in my youth. Anyway, the chapter is all about the other games that Satsuki and Miyako play besides Dragon Quest X. That's an interesting topic, figuring out how much you have in common with your guildmates beyond the game that brought you all together. In the past, I ran a guild in Neverwinter, the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons MMO. I'm still close friends with 4 people from that guild who became regular viewers and supporters of my Twitch streams. We've played tons of different games together since Neverwinter, including the Earth Defense Force series. There were other people in the guild whom I liked, but they either didn't play many other games or didn't want to try Twitch out, so we lost touch. Similarly, Pendy, you and I ran a guild in Dragon Quest Tact, a mobile game that actually got shut down while we all played. You and I keep in touch since we have this podcast and our Dragon Quest fandom to keep us connected. Plus, we do like some of the same games, such as Street Fighter and Marvel vs. Capcom. I wasn't able to forge a strong connection with the other members of the guild, though. I even tried to get them into Dragon Quest Heroes 2, but everybody resisted. I miss hanging out with them, but what can you do? Back to the comic. Luckily for Satsuki, Miyako is super open-minded about games, and Satsuki himself is fairly open to new games as well. They're well suited for each other in that respect, as friends, and maybe more. That's how the issue ends, with Satsuki realizing that he can open up to Miyako and be himself without her judging him like other people do. Satsuki's growth is a recurring theme of this manga, and I hope that he learns to fit in with regular people as well as gamers.
A lot of different games are name-dropped or implied in this server. There's Dragon Quest Builders, Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2, Dragon Quest of the Stars, and the Dragon Quest Monsters Joker series. I definitely feel for Satsuki when he talks about struggling to keep up with Dragon Quest X and all the other Dragon Quest games. I've thought about that myself. That would be really hard to keep up with Dragon Quest X and all the mobile games if we had them all in English here. Imagine playing Dragon Quest X, Dragon Quest of the Stars, Dragon Quest Monster Super Light, and more, all at the same time. Just craziness. From context clues, the game that Satsuki is shown playing in the beginning has to be Monster Hunter. They talk about a lot of other games too. I think it's fun that Miyako seems to be an even bigger gamer than Satsuki is. They definitely hinted at that in the earlier server when she brought up Tactics Ogre. It's probably for the best that he didn't bring up erotica games as a suggestion for Miyako. She might be cool with them, but you never know. Though he does bring up a good point that some of them go on to turn into non-erotic, more mainstream anime. A good example of this would be Fate Stay Night. It started out as an erotica visual novel game, but turned into a legit anime franchise later on. It was also interesting to see the author forego the usual Dragon Quest X title art for the opening of Satsuki playing Monster Hunter with his friends.
Good observation. Then in Server 22, adorable little elf girl, after taking a chapter off, the introductions to Astoltia continue here. In the first few pages, we briefly witness Pow and two other Heaven Slime guild members enjoying Treasures and Trapdoors, the board game minigame known as Pachizi in Japan. The three players go their separate ways, and next, we see Satsuki and Miyako discussing the concept of playing as a different gender than your own in Dragon Quest X. One of the three companions that Satsuki was playing with treats another player as his girlfriend and gives her gifts all the time. Turns out that this person, whose character is a cute elf girl, is a big, buff, older guy with two kids in high school. Satsuki is bothered by this, but Miyako thinks it's fine for the world of the game. She points out that they are both doing the same thing. Pao and Goro, their Dragon Quest X characters, are the opposite of their real-life genders. They also discuss their own relationship, and Miyako wonders out loud how long she can stay as a roommate to Satsuki. He says that she can stay as long as she wants. She's a little flustered by the answer, and points out that he might move away in the near future if he gets assigned to a different store at work. Later on, in her room, Miyako ponders how long she should stay.
I love that TNT is in Dragon Quest X, and it's great to see Pao-san engage in it here. Apparently in Dragon Quest X, you can find the games in the casino that's in the game. They built up maps like big tables that you can approach and then choose to play if you want. I like the look of it in the game, and it looks like it would be a lot of fun to do. I always enjoyed playing TNT in games and the various Dragon Quest games that they appear in. The meat of the story in this chapter, however, involves gender identity in the game versus real life. To be honest, I was kind of bored with it since they've addressed this concept before in previous servers, though the idea of that guy not knowing the cute elf girl was really a big, burly, older guy was funny at least. It reminds me of the classic Puff Puff joke in Dragon Quest 3. If you know, you know.
Everybody loves a good Puff Puff.
Yes, everyone normally does love a good Puff Puff. Maybe not so much in 3, but then again, maybe you're into that kind of thing. Not going to spoil it, especially if you're going to play the remake coming up here soon, but yes.
That will be fascinating. I was a little sad that the chapter didn't explore Treasures and Trapdoors more. We only see elements of it on the first 2 pages. This is a timely reference, though, because Dragon Quest III 2D HD will be launching on November 14th. Controversially, Pachizi will not be included in the new remake of 3. It was a part of the Super Famicom and Game Boy Color versions, but not the NES or mobile versions of 3. There's definitely a precedent for leaving Pachizi out, but Pendy, you and I both enjoyed it in Dragon Quest Tact, so we would rather it had been included in the remake.
Yes, I agree. It would have been fun to see it in this remake, though I am glad to see that they are basically going to replace it with another side game with enhancing the monster arena and being able to collect monsters for it and building up your own team to fight as opposed to just seeing random monster teams fight each other. So I'm still sad that it's not in in it, but I am glad that there will be something else to do.
Yep, at least there's that. And you reminded me earlier that Pachisi was also in Theatrhythm Dragon Quest, which I played for 3DS, and some other remakes and side games. So it's a recurring feature that sometimes makes the cut and sometimes doesn't, for better or for worse. Anyway, I didn't mind the gender discussion in this chapter because here it's focused on the idea of in-game romance. Is it right to romance someone in the game without telling them that you're really a different gender? I think it's better to be honest about things like that, but some people strongly believe in maintaining a separate online identity. And I bet that's fairly common in Japan, where they have, like weird social etiquette and weird online behavior and such, compared to us. Anyway, Miyako is right to point out that both she and Satsuki play as different genders from their real selves, but they're not romancing anyone online. Maybe they'll have a real life romance together someday, though. I love that Miyako is starting to think of Satsuki in her downtime, possibly as more than just a friend.
Now that we've completed both Dragon Quest Dai anime series, we'll move on to the movies in our next podcast installment.
Movies? There are Dai movies too?
3 of them, in fact. They were done around the same time as the original anime in the early 90s. They're all around 30 to 40 minutes, like those short Dragon Ball movies, if you've ever seen any of those. We'll start with the first 2 movies in our next episode.
Those will be interesting to watch. The more Dai, the merrier. So look forward to it, guys. And with that, we wrap up this episode of Alltrades DQ Media Abbey. If you want to prepare for our next episode, be sure to watch the first 2 Dai movies, which are titled The Great Adventure of Dai 1 and The Great Adventure of Dai 2, Avon's Disciples, and read chapters 23 and 24 of Rooming with the Gamer Gal. You can watch the Dai movies in fan subtitled form at the completely legal site Otaku Streamers, or a similar site, and Rooming with the Gamer Gal is available through the Manga Up mobile app.
We're a non-profit podcast. We won't grand cross your hard-earned gold when we can offer you quality content for free. But if you do have some extra gold that's just completely burning a hole in your wallet, pouch, bottomless bag, or treasure chest, and you would like to donate anything to a website that's been supporting Dragon Quest fans for over 25 years, stop by the Dragon's Den by clicking the link in the show notes. There are several ways to support the Den, including the affiliate links that don't cost you anything extra when making other Dragon Quest purchases. And don't forget to put in your pre-order for the Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake, everybody.
Boy, I'm excited for that game. We even have a Slime Time t-shirt that was designed by our resident artist and wealthy dude, Dwayne. See the link for it in the show notes.
As part of the Slime Time Extended Universe, or STU, you can direct comments or questions for the podcast on X and Instagram at DQ Slime Time.
And you can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/EastXTwitch. Come watch me play a variety of games every Saturday, kids.
Join in tons of Dragon Quest discussion at the Dragon's Den forums and Discord and the Dragon Questers and Slime Time Facebook groups.
We'd like to thank everyone that made this podcast possible, including Pendy, Woodus, the Dragon's Den, and Dai. May he one day return to lead England to prosperity or something.
Please like, subscribe, and write a review for the podcast.
We'll catch you later, everybody. Don't hate. Appreciate.
Time to zoom on out of here.
When you go off alone, sometimes all a friend can do is wait and watch for you to come back home. Hey, tell me where you're going when you go off alone. Oh, this was a story based on honesty and courage from the start. We're together, I thought we could make it work. On the horizon, something shining, and everyone can see.
This is slime time! General Flazzard here! Beware my 5-finger flares!